Welcome to Living the Reiki Life podcast. Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Kristi, and we're coming at you from the Prairie Province of Saskatchewan, Canada.
We met in the corporate world over a decade ago and became great friends. We started our Reiki journey together, and now we are Reiki masters. Follow along as we navigate life living the spiritual world while still working the 9 to 5.
We gather twice a month to chat all about Reiki and our Reiki journeys, energy healing, and other healing modalities.
We are going to interview some of our gurus and cover a vast majority of topics that we find interesting, and hopefully you do too. Let's get at it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey guys, welcome to Living the Reiki Life. It's Kristi here and Amanda. And we got episode 13 here for you, lucky number 13. And we actually just had a Friday the 13th in October, which is past now. And a fun fact is that I was actually born on Friday the 13th. And I used to, this day would freak me out. I always thought something bad was going to happen, but I actually did a deep dive into the meaning of 13. And I just found out so many fascinating things about it. And now I look at the number 13 completely different. I find it as a lucky day because it was the day I was brought into this world.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
It was a good day. And that's what my dad said. He's like, everybody says that's the unluckiest day, but he's like, to us, it was the luckiest day for us. And I was like, aw, it always sits with me. Yeah.
That's nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
I like the superstition around Friday the 13th. I know everyone kind of gives it a special vibe because the power of intention, right, is so strong that it really kind of, I don't know, people put it out there and I feel like you're almost looking for extra things, the black cat and the weirdos and the new moon was right following Friday the 13th. So, I mean, yeah, definitely be more alert. If you're looking for it, you'll find it, I find.
That's so true. Like attracts like. And when people all believe in something like the collective does, and then Hollywood amps it up, it gets an energy behind it and it actually manifests into something. So I totally believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, me
But
too.
it's whether you choose to feed into that or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what's going on with you?
Okay, so I tried to get into the October Halloween spirit this just the other weekend, and I tried to put on this movie. It's called Talk to Me. So if anyone has not seen it, this show is scary. It's scary. And I actually saw Joe Rogan post something about it. And I don't know why, but I was like, oh yeah, I want a good horror movie. I don't know why. I felt like I needed to scratch an itch. And so anyways, Todd's downstairs. My son is sleeping. It's 8 at night. I'm like, I'm going to watch this movie by myself. No, it just got too real for me. So what it is, Kristi,
Earmuffs.
yeah, I know. Oh my God. Yeah. So I'm not going to spoil the end because to be honest, I didn't even get to the end. So what this movie is about, these kids have this embalmed hand. Just this hand. Nobody can see me but Kristi, but anyways, so they play with it. So they strap somebody to this chair and then they shake hands with it, this hand, and then all of a sudden a spirit will appear, just a random spirit. And then they'll let go and then that'll kind of freak them out. And then they'll hold on again. Then they'll say, talk to me. And then that's when they're giving the spirit permission to enter into their body, to inhibit their body. And then the spirit starts acting all funny, right? Because it's in an actual body. Anyways, and I was just ooh, this is hitting too close to home with what we do some days in the Reiki room. And I don't want to have that negative spin on sometimes when I'm channeling good spirit. I don't even want that in my awareness. So I just things started getting real scary. And then I was like, oh, we're done here. Yep. I probably made it like, I don't know. I think I had a half an hour left and I just couldn't do it. Darn it. I don't
Well,
even feel
maybe
bad.
no, you won't pick it up and watch the rest of
Oh,
it, or
I don't know. It's just that thing, right? Like just having that in. And then when I psych myself out the next time I'm in a spot like that, like I would hope
right?
not. But if anyone wants a good scary movie though, like pick it up. It's like an Australian what's that film festival movie? Like I don't know, it was really good. It was really good. Like I
Yeah,
know a
like
good
well
horror movie
done.
from a bad one. Yeah, this one
Yeah.
was really good. So if you're into that kind of thing, pick this up.
Oh,
It's called
yep.
Talk to Me. Yeah.
No thanks.
I know, Kristi. I actually texted her during the movie. She's like, call in Archangel Michael.
Yeah.
And I did. And I just saw him like come sit beside me, put on his 3D glasses and popcorn. It was pretty funny. But not even his like presence around me could even help. But it's so funny how instant I felt him and even like come into my presence. So that is amazing. I love that.
I love that too. He is there like right now. He's like, what can I
Mhm.
do? You know, like just love that about him.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, and you know, it's fun. I've been watching Simpsons lately. I don't know why. It's just kind of like a mindless thing, you know, we kind of have in the background. And some of like the Halloween episodes came on.
Yes,
And I was
I
like,
love
oh, okay.
those.
I was like, these are the Halloween move or like stuff I can get behind, but not like, far as I go is like Hocus Pocus around this time. I was like, that's as much as I'll watch. But my
Yeah.
husband loves like old horror movies, like the real
Mm.
bad, like Frankenstein, and he loves like the vampires. And I don't know what it is, but vampires like freak the crap out of me. That's like one thing
Mm.
that just really, really scares me.
Oh, that's interesting. You ever thought
Yeah.
about exploring that?
Yeah.
Going deeper.
Could be like a past life. I even remember like when I was a kid, we watched this one vampire movie and I slept like with my blanket around my neck so tight for like months because I was scared this vampire was going to come suck my blood in the middle of the night. Just terrified. Oh, maybe there's some trauma there still that we need to release.
Yes, I'm not scared if so there could be something with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's funny.
Just a chicken shit. But
No, I love it.
I was thinking of a story to share that what's been going on lately. And on the weekend, I had some card pulls and I had a distance Reiki session. And when I do the card pulls, like I tune in, I ground, I call in all my angels and guides, and I just like expand my field and I light up the chakras even like above my head. I forget the names of them, but like I'm just connected to the sky, to earth, like this clear channel. And yeah, I finished up my card readings. They all went really well. And I was like, well, I'm going to go have a nap. I was like, it's Saturday. I'm just going to go lay down for a bit. Why not? You know? And went and had a nap. And I was like, oh, I should probably like, you know, shut things down. I was like, I'll be fine, you know, whatever. And I fell asleep and then I woke up and I thought I woke up. I got up and I went to the kitchen and then I went back and I was still sleeping. So then the sleep paralysis crap was going on and I was like, oh, here we go again. But I was aware of what was going on. And then I woke up again and I seen 3 people leave my bedroom. And the one person had like a hood on and she turned around and it was my grandma. And I was like, why are you leaving? Don't leave. And then I went back into my dream and I tried. And then I was like, okay, now I know I'm dreaming. Let's wake the body up. So I was like, I stayed calm because I couldn't move my body. I was paralyzed. And I was like, okay, focus, just open and close your hands, move your feet. You got this. So I started doing that. And then I was like, I can't open my eyes yet. And I was like, okay, stay calm. And all of a sudden I was like, bah! Woke up and I was like, okay, I'm good. I was like, good God. It's like, I will not do that again. Like go to sleep with my field expanded. I was like, that was like not a good idea. Oh yeah. It was intense.
It's really interesting. I find like when I used to work shift work and I would nap during the day to get ready for nights, that is when I would have like my like best lucid dreaming like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I've seen spirits like in my room too. And it's like, what are you doing in my room? Yeah, like you
Yeah.
got to get out of here. You can't be in here. I know.
Yes.
Even that lucid, like sleep paralysis dreaming too, when you kind of wake up, but then you're still dreaming. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't
And
know
you
what it
know
is
what's
with the
going
sleep.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different cycle of sleep, I find. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe you're
It's,
hitting like a different relaxation point. Like, there's REM and all of that. I wonder
yeah,
what's going on.
I don't know. But yeah, that's a really good lesson, though. Definitely close things up. Like, I know for me, when I'm doing any kind of Reiki session, I always like end things off with like, I always bow. I bow to the client and I bow to, usually, sometimes I bow to a full circle of people, guides, like in my room. And then I will always bow. And then I put my hands in a certain position by my waist. And then I always clear and like close the room. So I feel like that's my way of like shutting down.
Yeah.
Do you have a thing like that at the end?
Yeah. Like my hands will go to prayer. And then
Mm-hmm.
I do like a little simple bow. And then I thank all my guides and angels and their angels and guides. And then I just tell them they can come and go as they please. And then if it was like kind of an intense session, then I'll like intentionally cut the cord.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
yeah,
yes, that one
just
too.
like shut it all down. But I had a Reiki client at like later in the day. So I was like, oh, I'll just, keep the flow going, keep the angels around.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
that's why I didn't
Oh,
shut down. But like, really, how long does it take to open and connect? I totally should have done that. So I was
yes.
irresponsible that day.
But you're right, though. You're like, oh, I will just stay in the flow. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is good because I always kind of think about it like Andrea always talked about like an operating room, right? You would never perform surgery on the same room as someone else that you did just because you did a surgery earlier that day, right? So it's
Yes.
like kind of thinking even like in that way. But
That's
yeah,
so
very
true.
good lesson and good
Oh,
awareness
yeah.
for me.
Yes. Yeah. It's just like trial and error. You do something one time and then you learn something from it and then you don't do it again or you do it differently. And that's just what's kind of fun about this journey is there's not a manual for it. You just go with the flow and yeah, I won't be doing that again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good, like, at least it was a soft lesson, I find.
Yeah. And I had total control of the sleep paralysis. Like I didn't freak out like I have in the past. So it's like, okay, well, that's good. Like I was aware of what was going on and got out of it.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
should we get into it?
yeah, let's get into the astrology for November. What's going on?
Okay, all. So for November, we have a new moon on November 13th in Scorpio called the new beaver moon. This moon gets its name by nature, as this is the time of year Native Americans and settlers would set traps and catch beavers to have warm furs for winter. Another nickname for this moon is the frosty moon. So that kind of makes sense as it's definitely getting like colder outside come November. And Scorpio's card in the tarot deck is the death card, which is way lighter than it sounds. Although on the card, it does show like the death figure in his old robe and staff. But this card is actually all about transformation. So it's like the little worm becoming the butterfly. So as it is time to spread those wings and fly. So a great time. So this is a great time to write out those intentions to maybe grow a little bigger, take that business venture a little further, and like, set those intentions really big and just know that this is the best time to really transform yourself because of that Scorpio energy. I love
I love
relating
that.
the moons to like the tarot deck because people don't realize how intertwined they really are.
Yes, they really are. I love that. And I learn something
Yeah.
new every time because, yeah, that card is like always dreaded, but it
I
has a
know.
way deeper meaning. And now I'm going to look at it as the Scorpio energy because Scorpio
Yeah.
like just dives deep, like goes into
Mhm.
like the underworld and figures things out and just gets to the bottom of things. And
Totally.
yeah.
Really doing that shadow work within yourself. It's like, where are my blocks? Let's get rid of these so I can reach new heights.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, we have the full moon, which will be Monday, November 27th in Gemini. Gemini, the lovers in the tarot deck. So this might be a good time, since full moon's about releasing, to release and let go of some of those old, stinky relationships that are still hanging around. Especially if you have some of those old relationships that zombie from time to time. You know, those ones, it's like you think they're gone, and then all of a sudden they just throw a text at you and you're like, what? Ew, clear all those old Tinder numbers from Snapchat. They're time to go. Or maybe all of a sudden you have that random dream about a boyfriend you dated 10 years ago. It might be an indication that you need to cut the cords from them and do a release with the full moon. I know, like, when you have like random dreams about really old people, it can be kind of an indication that there could be a cord attached. So this would be a good time to cut the cords, write out something to cut and release them out, burn it, just do a beautiful thing. Always send it with love. It's the best way to release. And this even could be an old friendship as well, too. Like anything that you need to like let go of in that like lover bond, even between friendships. So anything you need. If someone came to mind right as I was bringing this up, that's probably the person you need to release if you did think of someone. So listen to that intuition.
I love that. And yeah, when I cut cords, I call in like Archangel Michael, and I picture like this big sword coming down and just like cutting that cord. And then I picture the cord going back to each party. And then I bring in Archangel Raphael just to bring healing to both parties and then seal it shut. And it usually works pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. Put that green healing light on each of you. I also like to think of like, I find lately too, when I've been cutting cords, if I pull out a cord out of somebody when I'm doing Reiki, I find myself like singeing the end. I like take the rope and then I like am singeing the end so it can't like retether attached to each other.
Ooh, I don't know like why. That.
Yeah, I like it too. And so I kind of think of that as well. So it's like, don't try to reattach to me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's done.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. See if any old boyfriends come into mind during that time.
Get out of here, creeper.
Yeah. Like 12 years ago, get lost. But you never know, like, even if you think about, like, with the work we do in Reiki, somewhere in one of the chakras, there could be, like, a little memory lingering there, and if it comes up, perfect time to let go of that no longer serves you, and it's just taking up room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this episode is all about the power of distance Reiki. We thought we'd dedicate a whole episode to it because we both have a lot of experience in it, and we just wanted to share like the benefits of it and like what to expect because it's something that we both offer. So we thought it would be good to dive in.
Yes, and we really wanted to explain too how powerful distant Reiki is and how it is just as good, if maybe even sometimes a little bit better, than an in-person Reiki session.
Okay, so with distance Reiki, like I get asked a lot, like, well, how does this work? Like I'm here, you're there, like how can you tune in? And we don't need like your physical body like right in front of us to tune into your energy because when you think about it, like time and space does not matter at all in energy work. I know it's hard to wrap your head around. It took me a bit to, get an understanding of it. I had to experience it my own self. And then I was like, wow, I was like, okay, I get it. And I've done Reiki for people in Australia, Italy, California, and I'm in Saskatchewan. Like that is a far ways away. Like Australia has a different time zone. Like, and it's so wild that I can connect to her and give her Reiki healing and tune into what's going on with her. And I know that these sessions are just as effective as if they were in person. It's just really a different experience altogether for the client and for the practitioner.
Yeah, I read a really good thing and it said like energy can be transmitted through time and space. And yeah, that's exactly how distant Reiki works. So doing distant Reiki is such a powerful tool. And I kind of mentioned this, like in some cases, I almost prefer to give distant Reiki over in person. And we'll get kind of into the reasons why with the episode and some examples that we've had, both of us. So I understand wanting to be in a room physically with someone that you're getting a card pull from or any kind of like a treatment like this. Like I personally, I like to smell the room, feel the calm and stillness, even feel that vibration of the person that I'm going to see. Like I remember when we would go and see Andrea for acupuncture and energy healing, I would just love being in her physical space. I love smelling the clearing spray, seeing her smile, hearing her music, and it always just felt like I had stepped into like a magical realm when I walked into her room. Remember that? It just
Oh,
felt
I
so
totally
good.
do. Oh, I wish I
Yeah.
could go there.
I know. So funny. So when you're doing distant Reiki, you're going to want to make sure your client or your friend is laying down or at least relaxing somewhere before you begin. You don't want someone to be driving or out in public in any way.
No, you don't. Because not that long ago, I booked a Reiki session with someone, and then she also like connected with my guides, and it was like a whole channeled session, like plus Reiki. It was like something that like was new. So I was like, oh, I want to see what this is all about. I was curious. I kept seeing it, and I was really drawn to her. So I booked the session, and she didn't give me like a timeline, like when the Reiki session was going to start or when she was going to email me the readings. I knew it was like all like a report she would do and then email it to me after. So it was like a couple days went by, and I was like, well, what's like going on here? I haven't heard from her. Like, okay. So I remember I was walking around in Costco, and all of a sudden I felt different. And I felt like people were looking at me different. And I was like, what is going on here? And then I was like, oh my God. I was like, she is in my energetic field giving me Reiki right now. And I'm in frickin' Costco. I was like, this is bad timing. I was like, you are not going to get a very good read from like me right now because I'm not relaxed. Like I'm not in like my own safe space where like I could open up like my energy field to read as well. And, you know, like the report she sent me, like there was like some really good tidbits of information she gave me. And she did actually predict one thing happening in my life that was fascinating, because I feel like you can connect to someone's guides no matter where they are or what they're doing. But the Reiki portion of it, I feel like I didn't get the full benefit. So I was kind of like, I don't really like that. And I wouldn't do that to somebody else.
Well, like a couple things to comment on that. So, two, like when you tell somebody, like, okay, lay down and relax, and I'm going to start, they are bringing all their attention and focus into the session as well. So, which makes for an even more powerful session, right? And then, two, like, I've had some really big releases when I've received and when I've given Reiki. So, I can't imagine being so vulnerable like that and being out in public. Like that just sounds, and in Costco, like I feel like my nervous system was already at its max when I'm there, right? It's probably a Sunday of all times. Like it's awful. It's like the busiest place you don't want to be. Yeah. So you can't relax and just let the Reiki naturally move through your body. And especially too, like when you're doing Reiki, you're not supposed to have your legs crossed. Like you're not, you need to have that energy flow. So it's just, yeah, don't recommend that either.
No, that was just a learning experience, I guess.
Totally.
And yeah. So I got what I needed from it and learned something along the way, I guess, with every new experience.
Yeah. And if you're a client who's receiving, you can always just ask the practitioner, do you mind texting me when you're starting and messaging me when you're done? And, just in case they don't have a guideline open for that, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
That is totally something that I start doing now, because actually on the weekend, I had someone that was in a different time zone than me, 2 hours ahead, and I got it mixed up. I thought it was 2 hours behind. So here she was laying there, and then she texted me. She's like, are you done? And I was like, what? And then I was like, oh my goodness. I totally messed this up. I felt so awful. And I was like, oh, okay. So that is why I have a
Yes.
scheduler now. You can book online and it does the whole time difference. And yeah, we're good to go. So another learning experience. Like I'm not perfect. I learn as I go. And yeah, so we got a good laugh about it. She was really good about it. So but yeah,
Aw,
another
that's
reason to
so
text
nice.
when you begin and when you end.
Yes, good. Good
Hmm.
lessons for sure. And that's so nice she was okay about it. It's
Yes.
really
Yes. Oh my God. I felt so awful. I was like, oh, she's never going to come
good.
back to me again.
Ah, ah,
It was all good.
yeah. Okay, so when I do distant Reiki, or Kristi as well, I have like this big stuffy that Todd won from the ex. It's like a guide for me. So when I give Reiki, so it's like it looks like a little man.
You
I
need
think
to
I've
post a
posted
picture of this
it.
guy.
Yeah, I call him Hank. He's just this like big stuffy. So, and it's good because then it gives me a guide of like where all the chakras are, and I just use that and I can feel it. So, and then when I do children or like babies, I've been doing like babies lately. I use a small stuffed little moose that I have just for more of like size reference. And very important, I make sure to clear these items before I use them during a session.
Mhm.
So I take my spray, I spray them, I clear them. I want to make sure there's no like other energy attached to these, especially the one that we got at the X. Huh? So it's
Ooh,
just,
yeah.
yeah, really important. Clear your item before you use it. What do you use, Kristi? You have a big bear, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Big bear I have from, I remember I bought them like from Bootlegger when I was like 15, maybe. My
Mm.
mom always hung on to it. And then I text her one day. I was like, hey, do you still have that big bear? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, sweet. He works
Yeah.
like great. He's nice and like, he's probably like maybe 3 feet tall. So you can actually move your hands like around the chakras. And yeah, he's a good size.
Yeah. That's like perfect if you can find something like that. Just,
Yeah.
yeah. So you can have each chakra quite separate. Because if your item is pretty small, unless you're working on small kids, it can
Mhm.
kind of muddle things around, I find.
Yep. And then you actually have like, I grab his feet to ground him in.
Yes. Yes. Same.
Yeah. So that's important too.
Perfect. Okay. So in Yusu Reiki, you would draw the distant Reiki symbol before and after you give distant Reiki. We personally, with New Earth Angel Reiki, we don't have to do that. Everything turns on when I do my calling in prayer for my client and when I'm prepping the room. I'm signaling to my angels and guides it's time to work. And I know I've mentioned this before, but I rarely draw the symbols on my hands anymore ever. They're just always in there.
Hmm. I feel the
It
same too.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the odd time I feel called to do it actually, but it's like pretty rare. Maybe if I'm like nervous and I just want that extra reassurance that they're in there, but that's like less and less now for sure.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that.
Mm-mm. It almost feels like magic that you can feel the energy under your hands when there was a doll there instead of a human being. Like
Mhm.
it is fascinating. I don't know really how to explain it besides kind of the explanation we gave in the beginning, how energy just is everywhere. But honestly, like it works, it works, it works. It is so amazing. I've had so many people attest to this. And my dad, who I do Reiki sessions on him quite frequently, he will know when I am like done a Reiki session. He can feel when I'm done. And I'll text him, like 5 minutes maybe after, collected all my stuff, or let's say, and he'd be like, oh, yes, I knew you were done because he can just feel it. So it's very, very powerful. And I've known because I've received distant Reiki too. Like I can feel like my guts all of a sudden start like bubbling when they're over
Mhm.
my solar plexus. Like, yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. I've even felt like a breeze, like even wind and yeah, tingles and like heat, like on the receiving end and then on the giving end. Just recently, I was like over the heart chakra and like the pull of both of my hands going up and down and up. Like it was just wild. And I was like, how is this happening? I was just watching my hands and I was just like, it does feel like magic. It is just so cool. So yeah, I did a Reiki session recently like another one. And I was hovering over the chakras, and it was weird because all of a sudden, like, I felt weak, and I was like, oh, what's going on? So I like put my head on the table for a second, and I was like, why do I feel so weak? And I heard sit down. And I was like, oh, all right. So I sat on my chair beside my table, and I just had like my hands over my lap, and I was feeling the chakras from like right under me. You know, like I wasn't over the bear, I was over my lap, and I could feel them the exact same. And I was like, this is so bizarre. And then I started channeling from the guide. So I was like typing on my computer, like getting all this information. And I was like, I feel like I didn't even give as much Reiki as I normally would. Like I wasn't over all the chakras. It was like more of a channeling session. And I was talking to Andrea about it. And she's like, you know what, like when that happens, sometimes you don't need to be exactly like that close to their energy field. You can do this from like sitting down and like when they're on the table. And it's more of like a quantum healing session. Like you're working like with the etheric body. Like you don't have to be right over the chakras. So that was something new. It was wild. Like I said, I learn something new each time I do something, because like each client is so different. And maybe she didn't want me like right in there, like right over her chakras. Like, I don't know. It was cool.
That is really interesting because some people can have a really big thing with personal space. And I do believe that even energetically, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even though they're booking a Reiki session, doesn't mean they're just like, oh, yeah, come on in, you know? So that could be just kind of a protection she maybe had up around her. So
Yep.
that's really interesting. And then I know Andrea too, like she didn't have to be anywhere near our bodies when she would do a session on us. She would always just sit in a chair with like, you know, just back, and you're thinking, what are you doing back there? But like, yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool. That quantum healing. Yeah. You're almost just
Yeah.
holding the whole space there instead of just isolating the one chakra.
That's exactly right. And then you also trust like the angels and guides or whoever you called in to help you. They're the ones actually like that are doing the Reiki energy work as well. Like it's not just me moving the energy. I feel like it's a whole team at that point.
Yes.
I know that
And
sounds
they're,
a little wild, but
no, not at all. No, what? No, it sounds absolutely right. Because we're calling in all the angels and guides. And like,
Mhm.
even though you can't see them, they're all there in
Yep.
there supporting you and helping as well. So, yes, absolutely. They are exactly right. So, when I give a distant Reiki session, I can offer this a couple of ways. One way is when the client lays down in their own home, and I will text them when I'm starting and I'll text them when I'm finished. And then I can give them a call afterwards to discuss, or I can even just do like a full write up after. I'm fine with both. But another thing I offer, and I've been doing this a lot more recently, which I think I actually really like. So again, it's like trial and error, you know, figuring out what kind of works. But I will have you lay down in your own space, so whatever is comfortable for you. And then I will have you on the phone with my earbuds in. And then I will have you on the line as I'm working through your chakras and reads on what I'm getting. And if we're going to do like inner child work, or if someone wants to address other things that come up, we can do it together. So I've been doing a lot of inner child work lately, and this is honestly the best of both worlds because we can be interactive, but you are still in your own comfort of your own home. So I really like this because you feel more, you feel safer when you're in your own space.
Mhm.
Like if you're laying on your own bed with your eyes closed, you're just not in a strange room. Some people might feel like kind of nervous to close their eyes when they're on a bed and they've never met you. Like there could be just, you know, considering maybe with what they've dealt with before or just from childhood trauma, they just don't feel comfortable closing their eyes around people for a trust thing, which I totally is valid and I understand. So doing
Mhm.
that distant and just being on the phone, I can feel everything as if you're right in the room. So the quality is definitely the same. If not better, it's awesome. And it just gives that people more to relax, and then they can fully open up and let me in. I can feel it when they're just like, "Oh, get away from me," or when they're like relaxed and open. So that's kind of, I feel like that sweet spot. And I hate having to try to write stuff down while I'm like in this, like while I'm doing the Reiki, because then it's like I don't know when to pause to start writing stuff down. And then I don't want to mess up the flow, but I am getting better at that because I do that a lot as well. So, but it's just, I think I like the talking through better. And how about you?
Yeah, no, I totally get that because I've been instead of like automatic writing, I've been doing a lot of automatic typing. So like I have my laptop out and I'm just pounding away at the keys, and I was like, if there was a client here, like that would be so disruptive. Like I wouldn't
Sorry
do
to
that.
interrupt you. I actually got feedback from a client who said that they were receiving Reiki, and then all of a sudden they'd be in this like nice, like meditative state. And all of a sudden there'd be like the scribbling. They would stop and they'd start like aggressively writing stuff down, and then they would go back. She thought it was very distracting. She actually, yeah, it was good feedback for me because I was still really new. So yeah.
Like, what are they writing? Like, when your therapist is sitting across the couch writing stuff down and you're like, what's going on?
What is that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's something I wouldn't do like in a live session. Cause like with New Earth Angel Reiki, like I've had Usui Reiki and of course New Earth Angel Reiki, and like with see, I can't say it right. Usu Reiki.
I want to say that too.
With that one, it's like there's not a lot of talking going on. Like it's a complete relaxation, like the whole time. Where with like New Earth, it's like stuff comes up. It's like, hey, I'm seeing this. I'm over your crown chakra. I see this little girl. Like, what's going on? Like, it's a really interactive experience. So I feel like if that's where you find you would heal and get the most out of the session, then of course we can do that live. But then on the other end, if you just want to lay down and hang out and maybe fall asleep and have a nap, and just for me to hold space and channel what's going on, and then you can read it after, then that would be good for you too. I find it's like kind of personal preference between like my energy and their energy and like what they want to get out of the session. Like the last couple sessions I've done, it's been like a report after. So I send the report to them, and then like they can read through it. And then if they need clarity, we can talk on the phone or Zoom or what's going on. But there's really like pros and cons of both, because I did have a situation where I seen a vision so clearly and she's like, no, like that doesn't resonate at all. I was like, well, what, like what's going on? So I went back in, and here it was not present life, it was past life. And I was like, oh, okay, so that makes more sense. So if I was in a live session with her, we would have been able to figure that out right then and there rather than after. But then on the other side of things, it's like, I feel like I'm so much more in my zone. Like my clairs are more like on fire. Like when I don't have like not a distraction, but like the energy of somebody else waiting for me to say something, like I can like completely shut everything off and just zone into what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling and seeing. Like, I just feel like my zone and my flow gets much better, but like the practice changes all the time. So like maybe in a couple months, I'll want to do all live sessions. Like, it's just kind of like, it's really client by client, I find.
Yeah, I definitely agree with client by client. Some clients, I do find it is better to do a session. Like I'll text you when I start, I'll text you when I'm done. Because I find I can't concentrate as well, or if I'm trying to tune into something really specific, it is better if I'm left to be by myself so I can get fully connected in, like you said.
Yeah.
The one thing though, Kristi, what's nice about you doing the report after, then they always have it.
Yes.
And sometimes too, when you're in the session and you're trying to make notes of what happened after, they can misconstrue things, or they can forget something really important, or they just focused on the one thing you said and they forgot about the other 3 good things that you said that are really important too. So by you typing that out, there's like no cross that way.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And it's so crazy. Like at the end, I'll be like, hey guys, like, what's our last message here? And then my fingers will just fly. And I'm just like typing. And then I go back and read it. And I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful message. And I feel like in a live session or in person session, I feel like I wouldn't be able to get that good of a connection. But that's definitely like something I can work on, or it's something I want to explore. Like it's really, we can do whatever we want, really.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah, what's coming up right now as we have the episode, really.
Mm-hmm. Who knows where we'll be in 6 months from now, like where our sessions will be.
Yes. And I can't wait for that. So like, yeah, I've had some definitely profound sessions doing distant Reiki, and like having my client on the phone and being able to tune into their body. Like I do feel like it's a more relaxed in a way for me to like move all the way around where I need to go. So like sometimes when I'm doing, not sometimes, every time I do Reiki, it's like I'm doing Qigong now. It's like now when we very first started, it was just our hands would move, like just my hands, like, ooh, my hands are raising on their own. And then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, my arm is swinging over here. Now when I do Reiki, I'm doing full on Qigong. My whole body is moving and my legs are moving. I am moving the energy fully around the whole room. And like, I have a friend who comes for Reiki and she's like, it's like a wind tunnel back there. What are you doing? Because I'll be in her crown. I'm sweeping stuff and I'm moving all over. And I feel like I'm taking the energy and I'm just moving it all where it needs to go. And it's all just, it kind of channels. Like I don't have to think about it at all. It just moves. So that I kind of like, because it lets me like freely express myself. I don't have someone looking at me with, sometimes they do because they're probably like, what's going on? I've also had other kind of like things where I have literally had to pound on someone's chest, and like so on my doll's chest when I'm doing distant Reiki. And I know that would come through a different way if they were actually on my table. And I'm not too sure why the few times where I've literally, it's almost like I'm doing heart compressions like this, and I'm like pounding on their heart or actual pounding on it. And I have had other times where I've like had to take their legs and shake them out like a gym rope and like put my hands in places. Maybe that would be will definitely be too intimate if they were here in person. So, an example would be somebody who's had a really bad labor trauma. So I'm healing that. And like, obviously, I'm not going to put my hands anywhere near or on their sacral, right? That'd be an absolute violation. That is against our ethics. But when it's distant, it's like I can get very personal in that space because it's distant. So that's something I really enjoy too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have witnessed your magic of like watching your body move and your arms move and like your mudras. And yeah, it's quite the experience. I really love it. It's just like, it's almost like a different energy, like come with you. And then like you do this whole session together and it's so amazing. Even like when we've done distance Reiki together, you'll be like, well, what's my hand doing? I'm not quite sure. And you're like trying to explain it. I'm just like, I just trust what's going on. And
I know. But you know what? If it wasn't you on the other end of the line, I probably wouldn't even bother.
Yeah, probably
like,
not.
You'll know.
Yeah.
I'm looking for you for answers. Yeah.
No, I love that. It's a whole experience, but I can see what you mean. Like when it's just you in the room by yourself, then you can like fully like move your arms out and in, or like whatever you want to do, like fully expressed and just like move that energy out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And like sometimes even too, like I'll be putting like both my hands hovering over a chakra, and then all of a sudden I'm having to touch like the doll to actually touch their body. And then even sometimes my forehead will go in. So I don't know. I still don't even know why that really happens. It's almost like I'm giving it everything I can to help move the block. Like it's a strong block. I usually find that if people are like sick, like they actually have like something rather serious, like let's say like MS or something like that, and I'm over their crown or third eye area, my whole self will go in to try to release that block. So another bonus if they're not there right on the table. But again, I know my like energetic boundaries just wouldn't allow that to happen. Obviously, I would do something else.
The energy would flow different. Like you would do something different in that moment. You'd hold different space.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And like doing Reiki on kids, that one. So I recently had an experience actually doing Reiki on a friend's daughter. And like she was 8 and like bless her. she we were probably like 20 minutes in and she's like, has it been an hour yet? And I was like, what? Like, right? Like their attention spans are just like they're not cut out. They don't want to lay there and relax. They're not just like this is the best me time, like nothing, right? So that also I feel like would be more beneficial. Like just text me when your child is resting or you're reading stories or going to bed, and then I'll tune in and I'll give a session. And then me and the parent can talk on the phone, of course, or I can give a write up as well. And babies the same way. Like I wouldn't have a baby necessarily on my table unless maybe the mom was holding the baby and we did a quick like kitchen table Reiki session, but that's like a spot treatment, but that would be kind of it. So definitely distant for kids. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think so, because it's hard for them to like understand exactly what's going on. And I talked to Andrea actually about this, and she's had a lot of experience with kids, and she said that she makes it like playful, like a story time. And I was like, oh, that's such a cool idea. But I find it's best like parents text me like, hey, my kid's in bed, and be like, okay, cool, I can tune in. And a lot of it I find like with myself is I meet with their higher self. And then we start like the conversation and we start talking about like what's going on, like what can they not tell their parents that is going on? Like maybe they can't sleep or something's wrong at school or they feel off. Like sometimes kids have, they can't express their emotions. They can't find the words. So I find by sitting down with their higher self, I'm able to get like a whole picture of like what is going on. And I did do this one session for this one child, and I had my hands over his chakras, and then all of a sudden my hands moved up and went to my ears, and I heard listen. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I just started typing. It was like everything came out, just type, type, type. And I was like, okay, well, we should be doing some Reiki, like move some energy around. And it was like, no, like we just need to talk this out. And there were so many like cool things that this child's higher self was telling me, like the way they explained the nervous system as like a racetrack with cars and like all these different things, like from a child's mind to its higher self. It was really fascinating. So I also find like with kids, like say like they just need like a little zap over the heart chakra. It's not like we have to hover for like 20 minutes over there, because kids are good at moving their own energy. They're not sitting on the couch watching TV. And well, I guess like most kids, well, I don't know kids nowadays, right? But I find like when kids wake up, they want to go, they want to dance, they want to play, and they're moving their energy through. And their goal, like when they're a kid, is to have the most joy. And joy is such a high vibration that a lot of that energy doesn't resonate in that type of environment. So they're not holding on to a lot of things, but there is times in a kid's life that, you know, like something traumatic may happen, and we can definitely tune in and move that energy out. So they're not dealing with this when they're 20 years old or something. So I just find like if a parent is like tapped in and knows like a thing or two about Reiki and their child is struggling with something, I believe it is like such a beautiful gift to give that child for the present moment and for the future. I just find it's just something so amazing that you could do for your child, from my experience.
Definitely. If you could clear away the little traumas that happen instead of storing those into your body and then waiting to your 50 to unlock 50 years of trauma instead of just dealing with it as it comes, 100%.
Yeah.
And to like, I mean, this more applies for like younger kids, but my son has no problem expressing what he feels. And, maybe kids until they're like, I don't know, let's say 7, if they're upset, they're going to scream and tell you about it. They're not just going to bury it inside and pretend they're fine, which is very healthy. So, they wouldn't need as much releasing necessarily. Not always the case, right? But like I would say majority ones that I felt with, they're not like holding on to years and years and years of that block.
Yeah.
So I do find it's actually a quicker session as well.
Yeah, like I feel like 20 minutes to half an hour is usually a lot of time.
Yeah. And on this, just wanted to give a reminder, you need permission to send someone distant Reiki, and you have to respect the fact if they're just not interested. Everyone's walking their own path in this lifetime. I'm personally not a fan of when other people try to push their religion on me. And this would be like the same kind of manner, right? Like it's just people aren't into it. That's fine. You can just leave it alone. But if I suggest, hey, do you care if I Reiki your little girl because they're not feeling well? I always ask the parents' permission, yes or no. And I'm not offended at all, whatever the answer is.
Yeah. I've been in that situation too, where I've seen, like parents going through something, and I've offered like, hey, if you're ever interested, this is what I do. And it really is about like the approach and how you say it. And I feel like in those moments that like my angels and guides are guiding me to help them at a different level. But you never know. Like if someone says, you know what, I'm not really into that, I'd be like, that's totally fine. I just wanted to offer. Like I wouldn't ever just say that to a stranger. Like I've only said this to like close friends and family. So, and I find with, like if somebody needs some help and they're not like, I can't just get to them in like 10 minutes. I've given like, Andrew calls it like a Reiki cloud, but I like picture my heart like filling up with like so much love and all this energy. And I picture like the energy like coming out of my heart, like all this Reiki energy in it. And then I send that ball of love to them. And the crazy thing is like people on the receiving end of that could feel that love that I sent them. They're like, my heart just burst open and I could feel your love. So it's like, that is just magic right there, that like energy doesn't have time and space. It doesn't matter where you are.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So if you ever need a love bomb, let me know.
Yeah. Send us a drop.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to get into a distance Reiki session that actually Amanda did for me. That was quite wild. I was having problems sleeping, and in the other episode, I talked about how I felt like a sense in my house, like a presence was around, like someone was waking me up at night, and I thought I had it under control. And then I messaged my friend and she tuned into my energetic field and she's like, you know what? She's like, he is still hanging around and he is not a good guy. And I was like, damn it. Like you kind of had to have a blind spot. Like you're just like, I thought I like cleared my field, but I was like, he's so powerful. He's still hanging around. And the funny thing is like she said when we did the Halloween episode, I opened up something in my house unintentionally, and that's when it was invited in. So I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. I laugh at this so hard because it's just like, damn it. But when you said you hadn't been sleeping, it's like, for me, that's like a really big red flag. It's just like, that's not your normal. I know when my dad doesn't sleep, it's like something's attached. Like there's something in his crown that needs to go, a spirit or something that we need to like tune in and get rid of. Yeah.
And it's crazy because like you think about it, it's like, well, why can't you clear your own energy field? Like you're an energy worker, but like in the same sense, it's like sometimes the healer needs healing and you need to go to the expert to see another view of things and help you through it. It's not like I wasn't able to do it myself. So that's why I called on you.
I got chills all up my back when you said that.
Oh, did
Sometimes you're
you?
just sometimes you're just too close to the situation. It's like you
Yeah.
need someone from the outside being like, let me have a look to see what's going on, because it's like you're seeing things through your own eyes when I'm looking at your whole body, you
Yeah.
know? That's a good way
So
to put it,
true.
actually. I like
Yeah.
that.
I like that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kristi and I had a distant Reiki session. So we did this one where we both had earbuds in, and I just walked through what I was doing and where I went. And Kristi had not one spirit, but two spirits attached. In the first one that we came across, I don't think this was not even the person or the thing that we were trying to even address, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, he was just like a straggler that just saw my light and attached.
Yeah, so that's usually what happens. So when people are open like that, they're like, oh, there's that light, and they will just go right into the crown. And a lot of the time, it's like earthbound spirits that just need help crossing over. And that's usually what I get a lot of during Reiki. I'm almost finding this is kind of my thing here lately. So this one, interesting enough, when I was in her crown, all of a sudden I was like, I had my hands on the wall. I have like a wall with a window in it, and everything always goes out the window is how I send it. And so had my hands pressed up against the wall, and then I was trying to peek out and look in through this like peep door. Like I could tell that I was like a young boy, and I was like, I wanted to see what was going on in this room. So it felt like the prohibition, and they had like one of those sliding eye holes kind of thing. And they saw me peeping in, and they came out and booted me out. But then one time this boy, and I always kind of see things in like, I see it both. I see it in like their point of view, and then I see like the bird's eye view after. Like it's like I get both, which is kind of interesting. So then, anyways, one time he just got caught. He witnessed something really bad about a man getting like really badly beaten and killed in a chair from these mobsters. And he witnessed it, and unfortunately they had to kill him as well. Anyway, so he died in this back alley. So Kristi and I had to call on Archangel Michael and move him on first. And while we were doing this, Kristi, you could see something else in the field when I was addressing this, right? And I was like, no, we can't deal with that yet. We have to deal with this first. They're not related.
I was like, well, what about this guy like in the corner watching all of this, like in the dark trench coat and the black hat? I could just feel his energy. And I could also feel the energy on my crown getting pushed in at the point where it was getting uncomfortable.
When I was dealing with the boy, the young man, or the guy?
Oh, the guy. Yeah, actually, that was after we cleared the boy. That's right.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. And it was really interesting too. Kristi's like, I could see this man. And then I described part of them, and then she would describe the rest. And it was like bang on. We had the exact same vision of the man.
Yes. I love when that happens. It's just like bingo.
Yep. Definitely bingo. Great. Yeah. So that was really good. But then we didn't address him then. I actually was like, well, let's keep going, because we started at the top of the body in the crown. I wanted to work my way down the chakras. But sometimes when you're working your way down, all of a sudden my hands were like, no, let's skip these ones and go right to the heart. And that's where we address the man.
Right.
So I'm over Kristi's heart now, and my one hand, I have one hand over her heart, and then my one hand is up like beside me blocking. So I feel someone coming at me from the side. And then all of a sudden I feel it trying to like walking behind me. So my one arm is following it. So it's like, it won't let its energy come into me. And I'm just following it all the way back and forth behind me. Until finally I was like, you know what? Get out from under the shadows and you come at me in the front here. Because like, I need to know what I'm dealing with, and I can't see it from behind. Don't be a coward and come up and face me in the front. I remember you were like, what are you doing? But it's like, no, we need to know what we're dealing with here.
Show your face.
Yeah, exactly. And so he finally did. And it was him. He finally strolled up in the front, which was good. So, and it was that man in the hat and everything.
Yeah, and when he was coming closer, it was crazy because I felt the pressure in my crown like coming in. And it was like getting closer to my head and it was getting uncomfortable. I was like, what is going on? And like I did have a moment where I was like, I don't like this. What is going on? And Amanda was so good in that moment. She's like, this won't last long. We will get rid of this. And I was just like, it brought me so much peace in that moment. And then I could come back down and then focus on what is going on.
Yes. Yeah. So I started talking to him and asking, well, what are you doing? Why are you here? And this man was just a pest. He was super, just I'm bored and I thought it would be fun too. And I knew she was kind of feeling a little blah. So I just decided just to keep going with it. So just energy sucker, just that spoiled, it kind of reminded me of a spoiled rich boy that just kind of pegs on the weaker. I don't know. Anyways, so I'm talking to him and then all of a sudden, I'm calling in my medicine woman. I have this indigenous medicine woman that I like to work with that I've been working with recently. So I called her in because she's really good at vanquishing spirits and kind of giving exorcisms if needed. So then all of a sudden we call in Kali Ma comes in and I could feel her energy and it felt like her energy started taking over into my body. I could feel extra arms coming out from my rib cage. And I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then I thought we were going to send this man off, whoosh him away, call on Archangel Michael. No, she had none of that. Next thing you know, I grabbed the top of his head. My other hand grabbed the sword and I just lopped his head right off. And I had his head held in my hand. And I did this warrior cry with her tongue. I don't know if I should do it now, but it was insane. And all of a sudden, I just stood there with my mouth wide open. And Kristi's like, are you still there? And I just was so stunned. My hand was squeezing the hair, of this head. I couldn't believe it. And then next thing you know, I put this head into my sack that I carry around my waist, which I actually didn't realize Kali carried a sack that she stores heads in.
Wow.
So that was pretty neat. That was very validating that was Kali coming in. And then we finally released her out, it felt like.
Oh, that was so intense. I remember when you're like, oh, I was just what just happened? What is going on? That was silence for 10 seconds. And I was like, what just happened? And at that moment, I knew he was gone. I knew it was done. It was so intense. How freaking amazing was that?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. It was a pretty good session.
Oh, it was so good. And oh, so good. And I felt so good after. And then I just felt more clear, more not bogged down and not that shadow feeling in my field. And I had a good sleep that night. And yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. We also finished Reiki on the rest of her chakras too, kind of relit the fire and gave her a good balance after he sucked all that energy out of her. It's just when you're feeling like that and you're not feeling like yourself and you're just kind of feeling, yeah, well, kind of, how are you feeling before? That's when you need to come for Reiki,
Yeah, it was just any ideas I had, I couldn't get them off the ground. I had low energy. I had a bit of brain fog. And then even connecting in, I felt was a little off. And then just the feeling of someone around me. And what earthbounds do is they don't have their life force energy. That leaves when they die, when they leave their physical body. So what they like to do is suck the life force out of you. And it's like a mosquito, right? They're just slowly sucking it out of you. And then you start to notice hey, what's going on? And then that's when, you need to book a session and get get that out. Like, I'm not saying this to scare people, like that this could happen to just anyone. It was just something from my experience in like the line of work that we do. You just never know, like in those vulnerable moments, what can happen. And yeah, that's what happened.
And that's the thing. Like when you're open like this, and you probably are if you're listening to this podcast, like let's be real.
Yeah.
You just, and you need to do energetic maintenance on
Yeah.
yourself. So, and that's what happens. I mean, I'm in a really good practice of grounding myself every day. Do I miss putting up protection? Absolutely. We're human. And it's like things can come in. I can be vibing really low one day, and that's exactly when they're going to pounce. So it's just like that kind of stuff happens too. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think it says anything about how powerful you are or like where you're vibing. Like it's just really day by day. Like, yeah, I might feel low one day and I might feel great the next day, but it's like they come in on those low days, and then you keep having more low days, and then you're like, hey, well, what is going on now?
Totally. Yeah.
That was a great way to end the Distance Reiki. I hope that everybody learned something new, or if there's something we didn't cover, you could let us know. But I feel like we really explained it like well from our points of view.
Yeah. Let us know if there was anything that we missed or that you want us to touch on. We love getting DMs, so feel free to send them. And Kristi's going to end you off with a card pull today.
Yeah. All right. So let's see what's going on. I am using the Healing Waters Oracle deck from Rebecca Campbell. And I absolutely love this deck. It's like the pictures just connect with me. They tell a story. You know, sometimes you just connect really hard with a deck, and this is one of them. So I'm just going to ask here what a message for the listeners. Okay, so the card is the Water Oracle. Psychic abilities, acting on visions, it's destined. So like there's a woman is like holding, almost looks like a third eye in her hand. Her eyes are closed. Like there's this like magical rainbow seashell behind her. Just going to tune in here. So it's like with the psychic abilities, and they're saying acting on visions. So the sense that I get with this is when you get those psychic hits, whether they are like visions or feelings or senses, it's like acting on them. Because when you act on something, like when you put something in motion, that is when things happen. If you just sit there and think about it, I know I'm guilty about this, and not act on it, then that's when things pass. And I also like believe that when an idea comes in, if it drops into your energetic field and you don't act upon it, I feel like that idea gets like sucked up and then goes on to the next person. And this idea keeps going and going and going until somebody acts on it and brings it into the physical. So it's just like when you get that download, it's just like put in the action steps and make it happen. Because if you just let it stay, it's not going to turn into anything. And okay, yeah, I just pulled another card. Oh, it's funny. I pulled this card for myself the other day. It's into the unknown. It's the underworld, the depth, the courage, and facing your fears. So this is also another message about like acting on what is coming through. It can be scary because like you're going into the unknown. You're facing fears. You got to build that courage. But like we said, like when you go into that uncomfortable zone, that is when the growth happens. That's when the magic happens. So it's just knowing that to take that leap when that vision or that feeling comes through. Because what's the worst that can happen? Like just jump in and see what happens. I know that's easier said than done, but we just know like we are so held by like our guides and angels, and they are cheering for you on the other side. Like they want you to take this leap. And then they like watch you go to the end of the cliff, and they're all getting ready. They're like, yes, she's going to do it. And then you don't. Then they're like, oh, and then she's going to do it. And then no, she's not. But when you do take that leap, it's just like that's where the magic happens. And I feel like this is also a message for me too. It's funny how this deck is all about water and reflects messages back to me as well. So yeah, that's definitely a message that I need to build some courage with some stuff and take those leaps of faith and just put yourself out there and see what can happen.
Kristi, that message was perfect for our Scorpio season, wasn't it?
Yes, the
Transform,
underworld.
little butterfly.
That's right.
Fly, right? Now is the time to, with that new moon, bring in that big energy, transform, and get out those bigger ventures, right? Get into that uncomfortable. It's a great message. Really fits too with the moon energy.
Oh, it totally does. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Such an interesting card. Yeah, I'll definitely post that. Oh, I'm sweating now. Whenever I start channeling, I start sweating.
Yeah, channeling is sweaty work.
It is.
Okay,
All
so
right.
if you want to find us, we are at Living the Reiki Life on Instagram. We are both offering distance sessions. I'm offering in person as well. You can find my handle at Reiki with Manda on Instagram, and booking is there too if anyone is needing a tune-up, so to speak. And Kristi?
Yes, and my Instagram is the Birch Soul, and I have online booking now, so it makes it a lot easier for everyone. So yeah, check it out.
Yes, that's sweet. All right, then we will catch you next time.
Yep. See you later.
1, 2.